All right, we will call to order the regular meeting of the Cohasset School Committee. Today is Wednesday, March 4th, 2026, and it is 6 p.m. in the evening. We will start with a roll call. Mr. Evans.
Present.
Mr. Guy will be joining us shortly. Mr. Squattrito.
Present.
Mr. McClellan.
Present.
Jan Leske present. So we will begin with a quorum of 4, and Mr. Guy will be joining us shortly. All those who are able, please join us for the pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We have a nice robust group of people here with us in person. We have another robust group of people here with us online. So thank you for attending. Right now is the time for public comment, if there is any. So I'll continue to monitor our online participation, which is limited to Zoom. Those of you who are watching on 143 TV or on Facebook, unfortunately, aren't able to participate live. So switch over to Zoom if you'd like to do so, or anyone here present. Okay, Mr. Ashton, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Will Ash from 125 Dome Street. Just have a couple questions that I hope you can answer tonight, pertinent to the agenda items. The first one's about process and timing. We heard a lot of comments that an override has to start with the select board. Actually, our select chairs here, Ms. Marr last night said that any override that the schools wanted would have to start with the school committee. Also, we've heard numerous times that it's too late for an override. However, last night at Select, the statement was that it's too early to contemplate an override. So with both committees saying the exact opposite thing, I think the community deserves some clarity on the actual process. And I think that should be sorted out between school and Select and give us a definitive answer on that. Next, Mr. McClellan, last night you made a great public comment at the select board meeting that we found additional money to ensure minimal loss of humans, I think you said. While that is admirable, it does not achieve the level of service required, nor does it solve the structural problems facing the school based on half a decade of underfunding, nor does it address the huge fee increases imposed on parents in last year's budget crisis. I look forward to hearing all the details tonight, but still expect this committee to continue working toward a level service budget for FY27 that includes reductions of fees imposed last year. For anyone out there in the audience that remains skeptical and feels that the school needs to be more resourceful with the funds they do receive, please know that I was once of that mindset too. However, after digging into every facet that I could find about past and present budgets, I can confidently say that the town needs to allocate more funding for the schools, be it through an override or other areas of the current town budget. Thank you.
Mr. Ashton. Are there any further public comments? We'll move on to our invited guests. We have a potential trip coming. So come on out, join us. We look forward to hearing, especially as we are surrounded by snow. Journeying elsewhere seems like a lovely thing to do and a lovely thing to think about, especially with this helping others. So if you wouldn't mind introducing yourselves and telling us a little bit about what you have planned.
Sure. I'm Carolyn Crimmins. I'm a high school English teacher and president of the CTA as well. My name is Natalie Hambor. I am the COO of a nonprofit called School the World, where students with Cohasset High School have traveled with us on service programs.
I'm Karina Nelson from the World Language Department in the high school and official chaperone from the trip.
So, shoot, we did not bring extra copies of the itinerary, but we shared them ahead of time.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
We're going green.
Yeah, we went from one meeting to the next meeting to the next meeting. But we did travel to Panama 2 springs ago and came before you to talk about that trip. This trip is very similar, and Natalie can speak to the specifics. The itinerary set, and the students are signed up and in the middle of their fundraising process. And this year, instead of Panama, we'll be traveling in April, hopefully, to Guatemala to help build a classroom and hopefully a playground in an indigenous village in Guatemala. And I think Natalie can speak to the specific areas and the safety process and the general itinerary of what a day looks like.
So we have already like 16 or 17 students that they start doing the fundraising, some of them last year already, so they're in a good spot to the trip.
Yes, some of you are familiar faces from when we were here prior, so nice to see you again. When we actually spoke about this trip previously, it was to Guatemala, and then unfortunately we shifted gears and went to Panama, but happy to be back again. So in terms of the specifics around our program, we work in 3 countries in Central America in general. So it's Guatemala, Honduras, and Panama. Guatemala, we've worked in the longest, so we have the biggest team of staff there in country. We will be working and traveling to not only Guatemala City, we'll travel to Antigua 2 days as well, but also spend the majority of our time in the rural communities of Santa Cruz del Quiche. That is where we have an office. We have 35 employees that work there. We work in over 100 communities there. So really embedded in terms of the local culture and working with the mayors in that area. So this group would be partnering with the local community and partnering with the local mayor to fund construction of, as Ms. Grimm said, school and or playground. And they'll spend the majority of their week in the community. They're really working alongside our team members, the community members, the school community, such as the teachers and the students, and really having that cultural exchange as well as the service component as well. In terms of our safety protocols, so not only just our whole footprint on the ground and how embedded we are with local government really makes a big difference in terms of this program, but we also have an emergency preparedness plan, which we previously have discussed as well in terms of our protocols and procedures as an organization and what we do on a weekly, daily basis working with our team. That was developed by a risk assessment team from GE, and it actually is updated every single year by them, as well as local security officers that we have that are experts in Latin America. And so we have not only those procedures, but also our local team and any of our team members get trained prior to every single trip that we have. So not every year, but every single trip we have retraining in terms of those procedures and policies as well.
And there's a nurse that travels with the team. So I can say she was outstanding, really involved with the kids, any little issue, and there were only little issues that came up. She was right on top of, and she worked alongside us and was right there in the community with us too, and stayed at the lodgings with us as well. I just was so impressed with School of the World. Obviously we didn't go last April, but the April before, I have to say I was a little nervous, but that went right away. Everything is beyond organized, beyond professional, from the bands to the drivers. Everybody was helpful, informative, welcoming. We felt safe, and it was a life-changing experience. And I think the students felt the same way. We've heard nothing but positive things from them, except maybe when they were stirring cement in the heat or shoveling or raking the rocks. But even that, they can't speak of it. I mean, they speak of it often and always with appreciation and gratitude for the opportunity to go. And I think, there are so many facets of the trip that are beneficial. It's the emotional connections formed with the kids of the community, watching the teachers teach with their resources in those communities, watching the local parents come together to actually build the school, speaking the language. You're dealing with Spanish, but also indigenous languages. So there's sort of like a, once removed communication kind of effort going on. And then the hard work, the actual physical labor, and the bonding amongst the students when we go back to the hotel and we discuss our experiences and share a meal together. it was absolutely amazing, and you come back a changed person with something to put on your resume, but more importantly, with something that will impact you for life.
I agree with all that, and I think that for the school board, maybe, in my opinion, sets them apart from like a tourist agencies. Like that's what they do. They go to the villages and they build the schools and they are in contact with the community and the students. And I think that that makes a huge difference. And in the impact that has on the students is unbelievable. And with the interaction with the kids, like the last day, everybody's crying because they have such a wonderful week.
They also have an opportunity to do home visits. That's true in Guatemala as well. And so they are invited in small groups into local homes to really get a sense of how the communities live in these rural areas. And that is always one of the eye-opening parts as well. So very different, and to sort of get a firsthand glimpse and be welcomed into those homes is really impactful as well. Do you have any questions for us?
Thank you. I'm sure we will. We could start with Mr. Evans.
Could I
Questions?
could I let Mr. McClellan order you? Because last time we've been through this, you had you've been through this much better questions than I had. So do you mind leading
That's
just
cool.
the questions here, Mr. McClellan?
I'm happy to, if that's what everyone wants me to do. I just generally, I'm in favor of trips. The concern I always have, and I probably raised the same issue last time, which is safety. So you briefly addressed it. Obviously, the safety plan is not part of what you presented to us, the specifics of it. You have had, your organization has a defined presence in Guatemala and has for some time. How long have you guys been there?
17 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And during that time, have there been major, incidents or anything like that? Okay, because it is, looking at the State Department site, it's a level 3 reconsider travel right now for Guatemala, Panama
that's
level 2, right? So Mexico is 4, do not go. So things are not turbulent in Central America. I'm not a expert in Central American politics right now. I'm just asking you. You spend a lot of time there. You're connected to the community in the area. So,
Right.
I mean, it sounds like in 17 years, if you haven't had a significant incident,
Right.
then that's pretty compelling. Obviously, things have changed during the 17 years.
Of
So,
course.
okay, and there are the security officers. Are they? First of all, can you describe a little bit, like what are we talking about there with security officers? Like,
So they're actual experts in security in Latin America, and they're from that region. They work for some of the big names of those security measures.
Okay.
And I work with them every couple of months, just as like a reinstatement, just to see what's happening.
Okay.
Because as we know, things change rapidly in our world. So, but they look at everything in terms of Guatemala, Honduras, and Panama. What's happening currently? They know really on the ground what's going on in terms of any politics or shifts in government that could stir things up. And as of just 2 weeks ago, when I met with my expert for the region, he mentioned nothing is happening. Like, everything's calm. We get that report from all of our staff that is on the ground as well. We have staff in Guatemala City as well as the rural region. And so we talk to them on a daily basis. In terms of the State Department, it has been a level 3 for many years. And if you go on, they actually pinpoint specific areas in Guatemala that, they say steer away from. We do not travel to those areas or through those areas. And so where we're traveling are some of the safest places to be. If we are in Guatemala City and we have to stay there, we stay in what is called Zone 10, which is the safest area. It's really kind of where like the big malls are, and many people live there and work there. And we would stay in, a Holiday Inn or something similar if we have to stay in Guatemala City. We typically travel right to Antigua, which is beautiful Spanish colonial capital, UNESCO heritage site, very safe. We stay with, the same vendors and work with the same vendors that we have for many years. Some of our drivers have been with us all 17 years. And then in terms of the rural region, it's very safe and where we work. So we monitor things on like a daily, weekly basis as well. And so I think just in terms of our whole strategy and our policies and how we work as an organization, and just how much we are embedded with the local government and the communities. They're also watching for us while we're there.
Okay, and does some level of security force travel with you to the sites when the students are helping to like?
We don't have security. It's actually was advised not to, just in terms of having, I think we got this question previously, like having armed vehicles or vehicles traveling with you. It actually draws attention. And it's something that, security measures, they sometimes advise against doing that. And so we haven't had that. We, in terms of our drivers, like they're always watching out if there's, any road closures, things like that could happen. If there is something like if they take the roads for any sort of strike or things like that.
Okay, and is there some sort of overnight security in the accommodations?
Yes. They
Okay.
have security.
All right.
And in the accommodations, we actually stay, it really rents out the whole accommodation. So when we go, we typically have the whole place to ourselves, but where we stay in Guatemala, they are gated. Yes.
Okay, and is one or more chaperones taking charge of the students' passports while
Yes.
they're there? So
It's actually a staff letter, yeah.
Um,
We register everyone with the US Embassy there. Aside from our own like insurance that we have that overseas for KNR, every other traveler also has additional insurance in terms of like emergency medical insurance, and trip interruption, all of those as well.
so like a lights out time where the kids are told not to leave their rooms or
Yes.
something?
10 o'clock.
There's a security guard on floor to monitor that.
There's somebody at the hotel that monitors, and then our staff and chaperones, we are walking the halls and monitoring as well.
We reinforce every day.
And there's really no time where the kids are unattended. I mean, we travel as a group. I know when we were in Panama, I imagine Guatemala is much the same. Even when we were sort of shopping in the local, we were grouped up, and it's not.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there should be.
Yeah, there was never a moment where I felt nervous, and I expected to, honestly, but there was never a moment where I felt nervous. There was never a moment where I felt unsafe. And you get glimpses of sort of the constant communication and the satellite phones and it was very reassuring. I felt very safe. And honestly, the local staff, so knowledgeable, so kind. You could just tell that they know what they do. They know what they are doing, and they do it well in terms of talking to people where we stop and communicating with, the other local stuff for lunch. I was impressed.
Gosh, all right, and you may have said this earlier, and I might have missed it. How many students are going, and how many chaperones are going?
So I believe right now, 17, and then there'll be obviously, Lisa and myself, as well as one other staff member from the Boston area, as well as the nurse that we bring. And then on the ground, we have local staff too.
Okay.
Our policy is 1 to 6, but it tends to be more like 1 to 4 when we have local staff involved.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Maybe I will just add a little bit about the cost per student. I think I remember in the past, there was some student fundraising done to offset the cost of the trip. But what are families sort of expected to carry? And is there a mechanism here in Cohasset for providing financial assistance for those who would like to go on the trip but can't swing the entire or a part of the tuition?
So the cost of the trip is $3,950, and that includes the flights, all the trip expenses, insurance, everything, as well as funds the project that they're working on. There is fundraising. The students, as Karina had mentioned, some of the students even started last year fundraising. They have been organizing several group fundraisers here locally, and have had quite a bit raised so far for the group. Aside from the group fundraisers, these students also have the ability to do their individual fundraising through online fundraising pages and through their family and networks, around neighborhoods as well. In terms of, I've been monitoring it, and several are doing very well in terms of their fundraising. And I don't know if you want to speak to some of the other maybe mechanisms here that you might have.
Have created opportunities where the students can take the babysitting day when we have the professional development day. They are in Deer Hill, and they spend the whole day babysitting kids from the town, and they are able to fundraise for that. And We also had helped them during the winter stroll. And right now they're having a basket to do raffle tickets and get money from that. So we help them with ideas, and they've been going to the dance floor zone.
Thank you.
It's also part of the learning experience. Probably the part they're least thrilled about. You'd be surprised, since digging cement is the other. But you know, it is part of the experience. It's sort of actually being involved in the fundraising, so that when you're there seeing the classroom built, helping to build the classroom, you know that you actually fundraised and helped this school to be a part of the community. And frankly, it's so good for the kids to sort of go out and ask for donations from the communities to put in the raffle basket, and sort of explain the work that's being done, and sort of have those interactions. So it's sort of part of the whole process. I will say not everybody is as on top of it as they should be, and we do a lot of chasing shackling, but you know, they know the cost and sort of what they can fundraise on. So
And actually, I think that it brings the community together, because for the basket that we're putting together, some of the students have visited different stores in town, like restaurants or any kind of store, and they are presenting their service trip, and they're telling what are they doing, and then the stores give them the gift cards that we're putting together into the basket. So the community is a lot of them too, and they're being part of it.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee, Mr. Evans?
Sure. Thank you. Sorry for putting you on the spot, but that's exactly what you phrased it all much better than I am. You know, this is such a bubble we live in. It's great. But you know, as someone who traveled a lot when I was young and continued to do so, I think important doing it in high school was invaluable. And you've had students here to talk about things and their experience here, and one of the first things they always bring up is the opportunity to go somewhere else. Like, that is just so formative. Obviously, the world has changed in the last week, and Ms. McClellan really covered a lot of security concerns. And I don't really need a detailed answer, but do you have at least internally a clear no-go set of rules to say, listen, if this happens that way, there's a clear understanding that you can make that call and you're prepared to make that call.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we do. And obviously, like you said, things have changed rapidly in terms of what's, you know, happening. And we've been discussing it internally. We do have a no-go if anything were to happen. I think obviously that would be happening here locally compared to Central America.
Yes.
So yes, we do.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Spencer?
I will say that my sister actually went on this 2 years ago, and I thought she was going to be miserable, and I think it was like the most rewarding week of her life. So obviously I'm excited to support this. I have one question, and maybe it's just as an anxious traveler, but on the flight on the way there, the 1 hour layover, how do we feel about that? And like, is there potentially a backup on that? Again, maybe I'm being overly cautious
tight.
about this.
It's a tight turnaround.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So we actually worked with travel agents to book these flights for us. We have had that layover before, having done this trip before, because it is a large size group. If there was anything to happen, they typically hold it for us. Like, if they know we're coming in on the flight, they will hold the flight because we're a large group. But typically it's like fine.
Even the airlines are so welcoming.
Yeah.
You know, they do the little announcement that they have volunteers on the plane. It's a lovely experience.
But I think 2 years ago, I don't remember if they were originally going to go to Guatemala, but I think it did get
They get
diverted to Panama.
It was like-
So is that like still an option this year?
We actually diverted it like early on. So we met in 2023 for the 2024 trip, and to get approval, and it was Guatemala. And then we weren't sure what was happening with local mayor elections. And so we decided by, December 31st, January, we would have to change it to Panama. So we did.
Okay.
And Mr. Dial is with us. Mr. Dial, do you have any comments or questions?
Oh, no, I've been to Guatemala City for a wedding. It was a lovely place. The people were excellent, and incredible culture. I want to thank you guys for bringing this opportunity to our kids. Mr. McClellan ably, as always, deals with the security concerns. And I think Mr. Evans also raising the issue of the international kind of world we're in. And I'm glad you guys are sensitive to that. So I think bringing these things to our kids and these opportunities are awesome and very much appreciate you guys doing it. So thank you.
Thank you. So at this point, we'll look for a motion to approve the trip to service trip to Panama as Guatemala, excuse me. Guatemala as presented.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Again,
Jake Abbott.
Oh, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Dial,
aye.
Mr. Evans,
Aye.
Mr. Squatrito,
Aye.
Mr. McClellan,
Aye.
Jen Leskey. Aye. You have our full confidence and approval to have a wonderful trip. So thank you for all that you've
Your time
shared.
too. Thank you.
We will move on to our superintendent report with Dr. Sarah Shannon, who is online with us tonight. It's almost like you're here with us, Dr. Shannon.
Almost. I'm in a different time zone though, so it's close but not that close. So thank you. I am with you this evening. I am only going to be with you through a portion of the agenda after the budget presentation and discussion. I will be excusing myself and Dr. Scollins will take on anything else that comes up over the course of the meeting. I have two updates though before we get to the budget. The first is I did at a prior meeting share that Metco is turning 60 this year. And as part of their celebration, they are holding a ball. It's called the Opportunity Ball. It was originally scheduled for March, but it has been moved to May 1st at 6 p.m. in Boston. So that gives folks more time to decide that they want to attend. I did share in my last newsletter some details about the ball. Tickets are $250 per person, but we would love for folks from Cohasset to join us in celebrating METCO and the relationship that we have had with METCO for all of these years. And so if anyone has any questions about that, they can reach out directly to me or go directly on the METCO website to purchase tickets. We also are coming up on the end of winter sports season. It's not quite the end for some folks. The girls' basketball team is actually playing as we speak. I'm not quite sure where they stand. I know it was a close game before I hopped on, but they are in the round of 16 in the playoffs. They went in as a number 12 seed, so I think we should all keep our fingers crossed that they win this evening. They're out in Wacona, almost as far at the end of the state of Massachusetts as you can be. For swimming, there were 7 swimmers that qualified for the Division I sectional meet and 7 qualified for Division I states. The sectional finalists were Ashley Wagner, Johnny Appleton, Sam DeMello, Will DeMello, and Wilson Nussbaum. And going to states were almost that same list: Ashley Wagner, Johnny Appleton, Sam DeMello, Will DeMello, and Wilson Nussbaum. So wishing them all good luck. In skiing, we had 3 skiers qualify for the state final race. Regan Brinzy came in 4th for the 142 and 10th for the 142. I'm going to be honest, I'm not quite sure what that means in skiing, but we're excited for her. Robert Blanchard came in 8th in the 145 and 24th in the 145. And Claire Starvish was 57th in the 142 and 64th in the 142. I think I'm saying that right. Boys hockey, they went in as the 25th seed in the D4 tournament. Unfortunately, they lost in the first round of the playoffs, so their season is over. Boys basketball and gymnastics both had great seasons, did not qualify. And wrestling finished their season. They were Cohasset tournament champions for the Cohasset tournament this year, and actually came in 2nd at the sectionals tournament as a team, which is the first time in a very long time that's happened. 7 wrestlers qualified at sectionals for the state tournament, and 2 were alternates. Those finalists were Randall Kennedy, Michael Shannon, Paul Chapman, Ronan Kearney, Jacob Sasso, Maddie Cups, Aaron Teriyaki, and Jay Naples. And at the state tournament, Both Randall and Ronan placed, and Randall was invited to participate in All States last weekend, which was an amazing opportunity for him to be at the Mass Mutual Center. So congratulations to all of our winter athletes. It's always a good sign when we are closing out a winter wrestling season and we are starting to talk about a spring season, because it means the weather is getting better. So it's on the horizon. So those are the only two quick updates I had. If there are any questions, and if not, I'll jump into the budget report.
Any questions from the committee? Go ahead.
I have a small question.
Yeah.
I noticed in my calendar that there is a musical this weekend. Do you know if that is still happening or not?
It is not still happening. With the snow days, the students who were part of the musical and those who run the musical all got together because they lost 5 days of rehearsal overall. And so they all got together and they made a very democratic decision where they felt as though they have had a wonderful experience together. They did a lot of work, they celebrated their successes, and they did not want to delay the play, but also did not feel, having lost so much time last week, that they could continue to put the performance on this weekend. So it has been canceled. But the students they were very much a part of that decision.
Thank you, Dr. Shannon. Mr. Evans?
Just to follow up on a note you had in the parents about snow load concerns on the buildings. I think we did talk about this briefly last Wednesday, but are all those concerns have been addressed? I think it came up in a board meeting as well about facilities shoveling some roofs. We did see that Hingham had an actual problem, but just confirming, closing that loop, that we're good here with surviving.
We
That's-
are completely good. I would give a huge shout out to Nick and Jake who run our facilities department. They were incredibly proactive with that. They were out in buildings checking the roofs as soon as they could. They brought folks in to shovel the roof at Osgood and small portions of the high school roof and the middle school roof, and all of our roofs are good to go. And we actually had the building inspector in all the buildings before we came back to make sure we were approved to be in the buildings.
All right, great. Thanks for closing up.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the committee? Seeing none, Dr. Shannon, please go right ahead with our budget and finance presentation.
Okay, give me one moment to share my screen. Can you all see that?
Yes, thank you.
All right. So, sorry. So after weeks of coming to you with bad news, I am happy to share some better news tonight with regard to the budget. With a lot of patience, with persistence, and a heavy amount of collaboration, I learned earlier this week, actually on Monday, that the town has decided to release some of the overlay funds. Those are funds that the town holds to manage some tax shortfalls. But because we are all talking about doing an override for FY 28 to address many of the structural components that are leading to this ongoing deficit in us being able to get to a place of level service, that they're going to release some of those funds to us for this year. And that brings us to a 4.99% increase over our FY 26 budget. If people recall, since the very beginning, in working with the town manager, the goal has been to give us 4%. So they have exceeded that goal, getting us just to under essentially 5%, which is great news. That means that our increase over FY 26 is $1,180,905. Those are additional dollars for us for next year. It does leave us with a deficit from level service. And that deficit is $1,009,605. And this presentation will offer an updated recommendation for closing that gap. But it also will share how we are preserving some of the positions that were originally presented last week. That were potentials for reduction, some of which resulted in some staff members losing their positions. This presentation will update everybody as to what positions will still be reduced, which ones will no longer be reduced, and how that impacts our human capital, our teachers, who are our most valued resource. So this is the budget line overview that I've been sharing at every meeting. This is updated. Everything on the left side is exactly the same as was presented last week. The change is right here in the yellow box, which is the allotment from the town and our ongoing shortfall, which I just sort of gave an overview of. So I'm presenting this information in two different ways because I think this first graph can be hard to understand. So I'm going to go through this first, but then I will share it in a different way. And hopefully between those two versions of our update, it will help people see what we're doing. So actually, I'm going to step back. This is actually what we shared last week. So I just wanted that there so that people could see in comparison to what I'm about to share with you. So everything in red is a shift as a result of the additional $282,000 that has been allocated to us from the town. It also represents some additional retirements that have come in. I've mentioned before that we offered an early retirement incentive for staff for up to 5 staff members. We have at this point had staff members take those positions. There's a clause in there in case more come in for how we would handle that. But those savings that came in, one that actually was turned into me yesterday at 8:30 in the morning, those retirements make a difference, and they help us save money and they help us retain staff. And so they're very bittersweet because some of the people all of them, it's hard to lose really great staff no matter how it happens. And I use the word some because my kids have had some of the people who are retiring. And every time one of them tells me they're retiring, I go back to my own children's experience and my experience having had them as teachers. And I'm sad that all of them are leaving the district because they are leaving such an amazing legacy. At the same time, I don't begrudge anybody the joy of what comes next as they enter into retirement. So I'm as excited for them as I am sad that we are losing them. That said, they also, in making this decision, have really helped us with some of our budget concerns. So the combination of those two things has allowed us to make the changes that you see in red. We actually are able to bring some funding back for supplies, professional development, curricular and instructional resources. Many folks across the district were ready to make do without, and we felt like it was appropriate to bring back some of those resources. We will still be reducing the central office position, a school front office administrative assistant position. We still are looking at a loss of administrative stipends, still reducing a bit in athletics. Position reduced for the additional half-day pre-K. There's no loss of staff there because of attrition. The ESP will potentially be a loss of staff. We're not quite sure yet because we have to see how some things play out. We are still looking at potential reductions in FTE for some of our elementary specialists, like our phys ed, art, music, library teachers. That's still part of the conversation. For some of them, they may be reduced from a 1.0 to a 0.93 or to a 0.87 or 0.85. And for some, they may stay at 1.0, but they may have to be in 2 buildings as opposed to 1. The 0.5 music at the elementary level is still a loss. There's a retirement at Osgood that will be a cost savings, but we still need to rehire. We originally, we were reducing an ELA position at the middle school and a math position at the middle school and a special ed position at the middle school. Those 3 positions will be reinstated given the additional funding that we now have. You'll see that the ELA position, there's an additional savings there because there is a retirement that is happening, but it's not the full cost savings of that salary because we will need, as we bring that position back, we will need to replace the position that has a retirement in it. Still in conversation about the 2 technology positions, the one at the middle school and the one at the high school. We do believe that though we are going to continue to reduce a high school art position, there will be no loss of staff due to some attrition. World language is a position that with the additional funding, we can reinstate. There's a social studies position at the high school that will still be a loss of a position, but not loss of a person because of attrition. Similarly, with science at the high school, there's going to be a loss of a position, but not of a educator because of attrition. And then there's another retirement that will need to be replaced, but there is a savings with that retirement as well. And so to look at it a little bit differently, we have positions that are being reduced, but will not result in a loss of staff. And we really feel strongly that we can absorb these positions and not negatively impact students with class size. Again, that's the 0.5 pre-K, the 1.0 art teacher at the high school, 1.0 social studies at the high school, and 1.0 science. Positions that are fully being reinstated are the 1.0 ELA at the middle school, 1.0 math at the middle school, 1.0 special ed at the middle school. And that one we did reinstate because it helps us continue to maintain, and really what we talked about was grow programming. So that because our students, when we were reducing it, were all still going to receive the services that are required by their IEP. We were not worried about that. However, it would have put on hold our ability to grow our programming, which we are trying to do, because ultimately, as we continue to grow programming, it will allow us to retain some of our Cohasset students in district who may otherwise need an out-of-district placement. So this allows us to continue to strengthen that programming, and a 1.0 world language position at the high school. Where we are still looking at some potential reductions that do result in a loss of staff, and to be clear, 1 or 2 of these may still come back in the next week or so. Because this shift is happening so quickly. We learned one thing on Monday, we learned a couple more things yesterday. We haven't had the time to do the full due diligence on some of these that we need to. But we are looking at that. On the other side, it said 0.5, but it's really 0.4 music, technology at the middle school and high school, and the 2 administrative assistant positions. All of that said, we do, at the last meeting, we talked about recall priorities. We do have recall priorities. We are looking at those technology positions at the middle school and high school. We are very much looking at those administrative stipends because there is a lot lost when we lose those as well. We are still thinking about possible adjustments to the elementary specialists from the earlier slide that we talked about, the phys ed, art, music, and so on. And then we also would, because we are reducing that secretarial support, we would like to at some point bring those back as well. But a lot of this is fast-moving change. And when we started this process, we knew that it would continue to shift and that the landscape of the budget would continue to change all the way, not even just through March 25th, which is when the school committee has to vote the budget, but all the way through June, even through August. That's how school budgets work. And so we are prepared to continue to bring people first and positions back as we can, and as that landscape changes. Sorry, I'm trying to change my screen here. So we are feeling good about this shift. This is probably the biggest shift we've had so far because it has allowed us, and I am stealing some of Mr. McClellan's words, to substantially and materially mitigate anticipated reductions while we're continuing to find ways to mitigate additional reductions. We really are committed to continuing that work. As things shift, we will continue to do that. And we continue to appreciate our town officials, the select board, and community members who are working to help us find creative solutions to support our district and staff. I think I'm a believer that within every obstacle or every negative thing that happens, there's something that we can find that is good. And I think what we have found in all of this, no matter how hard it is that there is a deep commitment to our educators across the entire community, and that everybody sees the value in the teachers and the staff that we have in our district. And so that's the positive that's coming out of that, because they are amazing. They are the reason why we are the schools district that we are. And so the more we continue to do this work, the more we can continue to make sure that they feel the appreciation that they should be feeling. So that is where we are of today. Originally 2 days ago, I would have come to you tonight and said there's not a whole lot different from what I shared with you literally 1 week ago. I'm happy to be able to share that there's actually a lot that is different, and it is looking more and more positive each time we talk. So I will take any questions, comments.
Thank you, Dr. Shannon. We'll start with the committee. Mr. Dial?
So Dr. Shannon, thank you very much for that presentation. That is welcome news, to say the least. We had previewed a little bit of that between the two of us at our earlier meeting this week. So I was super excited to hear that we have levers to pull to retain staff. I mean, as you've said, and we've said all along, the staff is what makes our district great, and we have a lot to show for the Herculean efforts of our staff. I want to also specifically recognize our town manager, who is clearly going above and beyond for our schools. And so thank you very much for the work you're doing. Dr. Shannon, you're obviously doing an incredible job of uncovering every dollar that we can find and every savings we can make in the name of trying to keep our schools on the trajectory that they're on, which is a onward and upward trajectory. So I think this is fantastic news. The slight tinge that I think we have is that I think for the past 3 years, we have pulled every lever that we can pull. We have found money everywhere we can find it. We have brought forward anticipated revenue. We have moved things around. I think this is the end of that. And so the real work is going to begin coming up this next year, we will be in strong support of an override for our town to structurally fix the finance of our schools. I don't want the town to come away and think that we've solved it this time, and that means there's continual pockets of money that we can find and bridge these gaps. This is a miracle that we've been able to survive this. If the numbers hold and we're able to survive this as unscathed as we are, that is an incredible triumph. But it doesn't mean our work is done. We really have a funding issue for our schools, and we're going to need to have the town come together and help us. And what is great, and your silver lining point, we have seen tremendous support for our schools. And if it takes going through this trial to pull that support and realize that we have such a supportive community, I think that's great. And so I see great things to come. And I'm incredibly grateful for all the work that you and the town has done to get us to where we are. And I hope that we can have future budget presentations that have smiles instead of frowns, and we can continue to provide the top tier service that we're providing our students. So thank you for all your work. I've no questions. It was very clear for me. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Can I-
Evans.
Oh, can I jump
Go
in
ahead,
for
Dr.
one
Taylor.
moment? Because as Mr. Dial was talking, I realized I should have also said one of the things that happened today too was some of this new information was shared with staff who would have been impacted. So I just wanted to make sure people also understood that this was not, we weren't presenting this for the first time so that this impacted staff weren't aware.
Thank you. Mr. Evans?
Thank you for the update. Thank you for all the work. One thing about retirements and in the sheet that we just saw, retirements were like a cost savings. But I think it's important that we recognize that it's a human savings, and we are saying goodbye to people that have been here 20 years, but we're also saving people that can be here for 20 years. We have a lot of really spectacular young teachers that have been in the district only a few years that connect with kids and want to stay here. And so this is not just the spreadsheet looks better. This is actively ensuring the future. So I am appreciative for everyone that's been here, to your point, Dr. Shannon. And I celebrate them. And I also celebrate all the people we get to keep. As we begin going through this, there's a business piece, my apologies, I'm getting wonky, called The Theory of Business by a guy named Peter Drucker in the 90s in the Harvard Business Review. And he talks about every business needs to have a very clear why they exist. And he sets out a whole thing, but the thing he ends with is that it must always be challenged. You must always challenge what you're doing and how you're doing it. And that's what this process led us to. We challenged every line item. We challenged everything we did. Dr. Shannon, you were creative. We had hard conversations. We had painful conversations, but it challenged us to figure out how to do things and how to do things going forward. So it isn't easy, to your point, but it's healthy. If we want to succeed as a district, we have to constantly be challenging how we do things. We can't just be rounding up every year. And when we go to the town, we talk about our priorities. Now we have exact things. We know exactly what $50,000 does, what $80,000 does, what programs they are. That's the kind of stuff we need to communicate. And I think, Dr. Shannon, what you were able to do last week and how you're able to phrase these certainly made it easier for our needs to be understood, and then our needs to be accommodated as much as possible. Certainly not 100%. Finally, like a few months ago when we started this thing, I made a comment to say, like, we were in small ball was the word I was looking for, that as we went through this process, we would learn things and things would look differently at the end. Because at the beginning, we were 12%. You were hitting the red button. And I've been through a lot of municipal budget cycles. I've built a company over 20 years. And, you know, as you go through things shake out. And I think us being able to play small ball is really important, where we're now looking at individual goals. And we're going to take that momentum and understand exactly how we got to where we are, and then go somewhere with it. One thing about professionals, I do want to spend more with the professionals. Obviously, teachers are, the group, but the professionals that work here that support the staff, they're they have families too. They have colleagues, they have friends that we're going to say goodbye to. But also, again, having run my own thing for so long, you realize there's something called a non-barking dog. There's things that don't get done when you don't have enough professional staff that you don't realize aren't getting done until something happens and you're months behind. And so it may be easy to say, oh, central office lost a person. Great. No, that's a bunch of tasks that someone else is going to have to take over, or a task that we may not get to. So as we talk about appropriately sizing the district, those are important roles too. And I think that we need to also recognize those contributions. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Mr. Squattrito.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Shannon. As I was looking over this revised presentation and just thinking back to where we've been, starting at 11.88% increase and then kind of ending in like a 3%. It's really great that we're at 5%, but it is important to remember it's still far from what we really needed for a level service budget. And there are many challenges, so I'm not here denigrating anybody for that, but I don't want to cast a negative light on this news, but I think it's important to keep that in mind. And it's also encouraging that we are able to retain, like we've said, this a certain degree of human capital as a sort of bridge because of what has occurred this week. So that is certainly very encouraging. But I think we really need to take how we felt, how the community felt, how other boards felt as sort of a shot across the bow of what this situation looks like in the event that we are not able to fix this issue. Because we spent a week seeing what it would look like if we really, I linked this phrase from Mr. Dial, cut into the bone of the district. We saw what that would be like. And I don't, again, maybe I'm naive, but I don't think that is something that the community wanted. And I think as scary as it was facing it and confronting that challenge has really made us more willing to overcome it. And I also think it's important from the slide that you raised to mention that we are actually still having a lot of student, not necessarily student facing, but student affecting cuts, for lack of a better phrase. We've been able to, not have to let individuals go by attrition, but we are still having reduced programming for students, especially in some of the subjects like science and social studies that got raised. So it's obviously very important to take care of the teachers and the staff, but I think it's something that we should bring up is that there is still a bit of a substantial student impact, even though we are, realizing some degree of recovery from last week. But, as Mr. Dial pointed out, we do kind of have like a clear story or narrative to build from the budget where FY26, it was Dr. Shannon's first year and there was, a major deficit ongoing. And that was a first round of cuts that definitely saw pain, was really, fee focused and, did involve staff cuts, but not to this degree. And for some, and this is not necessarily my opinion, but I can see how some could view that as a healthy process. Like I've said, we need to be responsible. And as much as we would like to spend lots of money on the school and make it the best district, we do have to operate a healthy budget. So, I can see how people could make the argument that the FY26 cuts were, a healthy, lean down the district sort of process. But this and what we presented last week, and to a certain degree, what we are still facing is certainly not that, in my opinion. And what we would face in a third year of having to do this, like the idea of pulling more levers, is certainly not healthy to any degree. So, I understand a lot of the concern that's been in the community, and I also understand a lot of the scrutiny that we face because we are absolutely a big, portion of the town budget, but we are at a level that making further cuts to this school district is, I don't want to say not realistic, but I will just say not a good idea. But, again, taking a step back, I think what Dr. Shannon has presented is sort of a rip off the Band-Aid budget, right? If we look at what the drivers are compared to the previous year, it was things like utilities and transportation. And I think in your second year here, trying to level set expectations around this budget, build a responsible budget, and then allow us to have that foundation to move forward. And maybe I'm very forward thinking here, but I have to get it in. You know, is a really responsible idea both for this community and for this district. And I'm losing my place now. Sorry, I was very organized. I guess my last point I will make is that one of the reasons I was very concerned over the past month and leaning towards some sort of bridge, stopgap, override to get us to another budget where we could plan that out further is because of the human capital risk and the idea that both having an override version of the budget, but also not having an override version are very conscious choices. And we were going down a path where we were going to cut 10, 15, 20 FTEs. And even if we did secure an override later this year or, you know, at town meeting next year, we still took a step down that path that would reduce the efficacy of that, where it's less attractive for teachers to come back. We've lost a certain amount of talent, you know, all those effects on the district. So that was a reason that, you know, I feel like that was something that I was leaning towards and again approached with a considerable degree of caution. But, you know, overall, I think we've stepped off the ledge and it's very encouraging, but we are still facing a lot of challenges. And I think the need for a change is absolutely still there.
Thank you, Mr. Soderbergh as well. Mr. McClellan.
Thank you. Three quick points, Madam Chair. First, it's not over till it's over. We shouldn't rest on our laurels. There's still reductions, and those additional recall priorities that Dr. Shannon identified are still something that we should continue to look at constructively and critically until a point comes where we need to, from a time perspective, vote on the budget. So I just want to put that out there that this is great news. It is encouraging. It was honestly somewhat emotional for me when I found out. I was very relieved, but there's still some folks that are in threat or under threat of losing their positions, and we don't want that. So we're going to continue to look at this critically. Second is that I just want to state that I've told some members of the community that have contacted me as well about this, and we've had discussions about it. I will be pushing as hard as I can for a school override, whether it is part of a more comprehensive presentation involving other town departments to our community or not. I will absolutely push as hard as I can for the schools to request an override to stabilize our budget in the coming months. And finally, I want to thank by name our town manager, Michelle Leary, who everyone should know this. Everyone that's listening to this should understand how hard she worked to identify solutions, and that has led us to this much better scenario than was presented last time. And everyone should be aware of that, of what a partner is she is for the schools, what a partner her staff is and town hall has been for the schools. If you are grateful or if you are appreciative of this improvement, then you should let her know about that. That also goes for our superintendent of schools, our assistant superintendent of schools, Dr. Sarah Shannon and Dr. Leslie Scollins, and our leadership team, including all our principals, who also worked tirelessly and collaborated with town manager Michelle Leary to make this possible. Also, our CTA, who also have collaborated with the superintendent, and you can see some of our faculty members have recently decided to retire. Obviously, everyone has personal reasons to do that, but there is no doubt there is some altruism involved in that, and where they have opted to help their younger colleagues save their positions. So we should be thinking of that. Town departments also throughout town have come to, I think, work with town manager in identifying places where they were comfortable cutting so that the schools could benefit from that. So that is an example of our town coalescing around our prized community asset, which is our public schools. And a number of residents had contacted me after my perhaps overly emotional appeal at the last meeting, but nevertheless, many people had contacted me. There are a number of residents in the audience, some of whom I talked to. And so everyone should know how important that the school district is. Everyone was very concerned with this, and I just wanted to point these things out. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McClellan. I will just really just reiterate the thank yous that have been expressed around the table for the unfailing effort, the dogged sort of pursuit of finding funding for creating a level budget, for saving as many positions as we possibly can. It is the epitome of persistence. And so thank you to everyone for not giving up.
Let me just add one more thing, and to build up, I meant to mention this, but to build up what you said, Mr. McClellan. A lot of the adjustments that were happening in town, and I watched the meeting yesterday of all the different town departments, they're one time, right? So there's things that were creative that, hey, maybe we don't need to do this, but this isn't going to happen in another year. So it really was a flexibility, a partnership that got us there, not some found money. And we need to fix the structural problem because this is a one-time fix. So I wanted to point to that.
Thank you. In any case, I think we have created a foundation of understanding of the funding that the district needs. And I think there's a foundation of a really wonderful partnership that has been growing over the course of the years, but has truly strengthened with Michelle Leary and Dr. Shannon to work collaboratively to care for our schools and to simultaneously care for our town, so that everyone gets what they need. So thank you to everyone. And we will continue to receive updates from you, Dr. Shannon, I assume, because this is, as you proved this week, an ever-changing and ever-evolving scenario.
It is. Yes, thank you. If this part is wrapped up, I'm gonna, and I can't see the room, Chair Lesky, so
I see no raised hands in the room and there are no raised hands online.
so I may excuse myself, but before I go, I would like to just share that the girls' basketball team did win. So that is great news, and that Addie Andrews scored her 1,000th point. Very good game. So something to celebrate there as well. So thank you and have a good rest of the night.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shannon. All right, Dr. Scollins, we will move forward with our academic initiatives.
Okay, we do actually have a review and discussion of the policy PCAF
Oh, yes, excuse me.
for security cameras in
The security.
schools.
So,
Anyway. Hold on, I think this was maybe,
this was in the packet.
yeah, from the question from you.
If I would motion that we table it, we're still very heavy in the budget. And that's where my head been, so I don't have any new thoughts on this, and I think it deserves our attention. But right now our attention is in the budget. So if that's, I would motion.
Would you like to make a motion to that effect?
Yes.
All right, so Mr. Evans has made a motion to table the discussion of security cameras in schools and our policy as to how those work. Do we have a second for that?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Squattrito. Mr. McClellan has stepped out, but I believe we can go ahead and we still have a quorum, so we'll do a vote. Mr. Dial?
Mhm.
Thank you. Mr. Evans?
Aye.
Mr. Squattrito?
Aye.
Jen Lesky, aye. Thank you for that suggestion, Mr. Evans. All right, so we will move on, Dr. Scollins, then to academic initiatives.
Oh, I mean. Too many tabs open. There we go. So tonight I just want to just present the Student Opportunity Act plan. I'll do this with our Director of Student Services, Michael Stapleton. And I will go over, we'll go over the plan and just kind of the highlights of what's happening with this. This is an act that was enacted in 2019, and the purpose of it is to reduce the achievement gap and looking at really specific subgroups and which ones, and you were to decide what you wanted for your district, and then kind of what evidence-based practices you are using, and then create an ambitious 3-year target. COVID did impact the timing of that, so this plan is actually 24-27 plan, going into the last year of it, and what we decided to focus on as a district is to reduce the reading and math achievement gap for students with this. And so just quickly, these are the objectives that we need to pick from a bank of things that the state suggested. And so we decided to look at promoting deeper learning so that all students engage in grade level work that is real world relevant and interactive. And so first we select and skillfully implement high quality and engaging instructional materials that support culturally and linguistically sustaining practices and foster deeper learning. And so we chose out of that comprehensive approach to early literacy, those objectives. And then number 1 were all things that the state suggested. And so we decided to develop and implement a comprehensive approach to early literacy education that was supported by high quality literacy, core curriculum materials, and that encompass foundational skills. And then also use the MTSS process to support our students. And so looking at high leverage practices for students with disabilities. So looking at training all staff in high leverage instructional practices designed for students with disabilities. And then collaborative teaching models, develop or expand co-teaching and other evidence-based models that leverage collaboration to best serve students with disabilities and multilingual learners. So those were the things that we chose. And so when we looked at our district, our plan originally started with Osgood, and then we added Deer Hill in the middle school to our plan because it does start at Osgood, but we want to keep monitoring our students. And then we decided to look at evidence-based intervention programs in math and literacy. Originally, we just were sticking with literacy, but we saw the need for math. And then looking at refining our systems using data to inform teaching and learning. And then our MTSS process, we continue to improve upon the process with the district and building-based data teams, and then expand our co-teaching into grades 3 through 5. So that was the overall for the 3-year plan. And these are the actions that we've taken. There's been professional development and literacy for special education teachers. We provided professional development for co-teachers through Seaside Consulting. Mr. Stable can talk a little bit about that later. All special education teachers in grades K through 5 are trained in Wilson Reading System or Orton Gillingham structured reading approach. And then we continue to review the ELA curriculum. And then for math, this year we implemented the updated version of our elementary math K through 5, the Bridges Edition 3. And then we continue to increase the use of data to inform instruction using our Forefront platform related to math. And it allows us to identify where students are out based on the standards and built into the program. And then continue to identify disconnects and gaps, key concepts and skills for intervention. And so when we looked at the data, we saw that we are slowly closing the achievement gap for our students with disabilities, and it's all moving in a positive direction. I think it was last meeting, Mr. Stapleton talked about how growth has its ebbs and flows, but as long as it's moving in a positive direction, it's not necessarily so linear. That's what we want to see for our students, all our students, but in particular our students with disabilities, because they have goals that we're trying to have them achieve. And when we looked at our MCAS growth for both ELA and math, our students with disabilities, their typical growth was in the average range of the low 50 student growth percentile, and the average growth is between 50 and 60 percentile. So the growth is good. There are times when we'll see a student who could have a growth of 60 to 70 percentile, which is amazing because they're closing the gap even quicker. But we were happy to see that there was good growth. And then we also noticed that we were looking at our iReady, same for our DIBELS. that when we looked at our students with disabilities, when they're moving from not meeting to partially meeting, there was some movement, but we saw really much stronger movement from partially meeting to meeting and exceeding. So we were making those groups smaller and making the other groups larger, which is really what we wanted to see. And so as we continue on, this is the plan we had, and it seems to be working. So we really didn't want to do too much different with it. So we're going to continue to explore and pilot and implement tier 1 and tier 2 intervention programs, especially where we have Bridges math program. We're going to continue to investigate intensive tier 3 math interventions. We're constantly looking for new programs as more research happens around brain development and acquisition of skills, and then continue to provide professional development for all our staff on the interventions. We did not get to conduct an assessment audit yet, but it's in our plan, so we'll continue that next year. And then we'll continue to monitor our data teams and data dialogue protocols in our MTS process. And then these are the things that we'll be looking for when we are looking at, are we making success and are we closing those gaps? So we'll continue to look at MCAS, and then also looking at their student growth, because that's really important to us. Even if they're not making benchmark, is their growth strong? And then again, what does it look like with some of our other diagnostics in comparison to our whole population of students? And I think you want to talk a little bit about the co-teaching and how you expanded the Seaside.
Yeah, no, I think it's worth noting that the Student Opportunity Act is a great vehicle similar to like the SPED strategies work that was done last year. Really looking at like cohesion and how we support students with disabilities through both like special education process and the MTSS process for students who are not identified. In previous presentations that I've been here for and spoken about, and at CPAC meetings as well, we've really talked about how we were working to develop inclusive practices for students with disabilities. The co-teaching model started really at the middle school and high school years ago when I was still teaching at the middle school, and we really have brought that down to the lower levels, and we'll be continuing, fortunately with the staffing that we have within the district right now, to continue to develop that and build out that programming, that opportunity for students. But it's been nice to have some cohesion. We use Seaside Consulting, which I've spoken about before in previous presentations, to have a great resource who comes in and does observations with staff, both general education and special education, and then really looks to build like vertical alignment of our co-teaching model. So structures and support systems are similar, from co-teaching in first grade all the way through up until the high school. So I think this, again, is a good way to both monitor progress for our students with disabilities and us as a district as a whole. We look at how our students are performing not only on statewide assessments, but on district-wide assessments, and then relative to their special education goals and objectives as well.
Great, thank you. And so our next steps are we'll meeting with CPAC because we want to get feedback and information from them, and then we will submit our information to the state. We have to do that by April 1st, and they will, they review it. And if they have questions, they come back and ask us about it, which is fine. And then they publish it. So you always have access to those reports on the DESE website. And so, we're happy with how it's going, and we look forward to see what it looks like, when we look at the data from this year too, and hope that it continues to be the same trajectory.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Scollins. We'll take questions from the committee. Mr. Dial.
No questions from me. I thank you for all the work and the excellent presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Are you sure you have to retire? No, I just, but thank you again, right? We've been through this, but it's this is, you and Mr. Stapleton steering the ship on recognizing new programs, deploying them, and we are seeing gaps that are shrinking, and that's kind of what I was talking about before. The planning that happens behind the scenes is years. You don't flick a switch, and so much of this has been years in the work for you, and it's just this is probably the last one of these. So thank you again, and we will persevere to continue on the path you put us on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spadrito.
I don't have any questions, but just, the two objectives that you chose, I have totally seen that in all the curriculum related discussions we've had, both like civics and like project-based learning, but also like MTSS. So just wanted to point out that it really shows.
Thank you.
I will just also add my thanks. It's the curse of going last. But I also was pleased to hear that all of our K through 5 special ed teachers are trained in either Wilson or OG. I think it's huge and really important, and I think strengthens our overall program. So I'm so happy to hear that is the case. And likewise, I think co-teaching model is really the way of the future, and such a great way to keep students together, having a really holistic learning experience, minimizing the disruption of different learning environments, if that's not always helpful to the student. So thank you for your work on that front too. I think it's really the frontier of way effective classrooms work. So appreciate that. Ms. Stapleton.
Thank you. Share my screen now. I have a relatively brief update tonight. So typical fashion for my school committee presentations, I start with some data sharing. Despite a February vacation and a blizzard that took us out for 3 days, we were very busy in the Office of Student Services with a total of 26 meetings being held. As you can see, there were 7 annual reviews at the elementary level, 2 reevaluations, 3 initial evaluations. Out of those 3, 2 of those students were eligible for special education. One of those referrals came through the MTSS process. The second came from family. As I mentioned before, I've really been looking closely at the data, and in a future presentation, we'll be looking at what the percentages look like for students who are found eligible, where those referral sources come from. I'm trying to do that a little bit more comprehensively using our Aspen system, but wanted to highlight that at this point in time. At the secondary level, there were 8 annual reviews, there were 3 reevaluations, there was 1 initial evaluation, and that initial referral did come through the student response teams or that MTSS process. I held 2 out-of-district meetings, so as you can see there, again, a short month, but a busy month. Looking and continuing to monitor our response rates. There's 51 current active evaluations in special education right now. So our school psychologists and evaluators are very busy, as well as our special ed teachers and liaisons and teams. We currently have 272 active accepted IEPs. We're waiting on responses from 41, with a small number of rejected IEPs currently. I did want to highlight tonight extended school year information for the summer of 2026. For those who don't know, extended school year is a special education program that's offered to students or for eligible students through the IEP process. This decision making is made through IEP process and is really centered on if a student presents or is likely to present with significant regression of skills related to their IEP goals. And if they take more time to recoup those skills following vacations and breaks from services and supports. So again, ESY is a special education program, and those decisions are made through IEP process. We have a little bit of a change this year. So I've been the ESY coordinator in previous years, and we work really closely with the rec camp. As many know, a number of our students attend rec camp in the summer. And so this year, our ESY information is listed above, and teams will be providing this information at IEP meetings. But the program will run from Monday, July 6th through Thursday, August 6th, Monday through Thursday, between the hours of 8:30 and 11:30. Due to the Osgood roof project that's anticipated to be occurring this summer, we will need to move locations from Osgood to Deer Hill for the elementary site. I've been in touch with Ted Carroll about what that will look like very early on, and I appreciate his collaboration and his information for sharing about the rec camp, because obviously, a number of students do attend that program. And so stay tuned for information there. When students are sent their schedules and information about the program, there'll be a clear description on drop-off procedures and things like that. And so I'm working with both Ted and Principal Sullivan on what the operations will look like at the Deer Hill building. The site for the secondary level is, the middle high school. And so that drop-off, as families are familiar, will be at the high school side. Samantha LePan, one of our special education teachers at the middle school, will be our ESY coordinator this summer. Ms. LePan coordinated the program last year quite successfully. And so her and I will be working together over the coming weeks to polish the schedule, to send out that information to families who are eligible. I know it's always hard to balance schedules and, kids are all over the place in the summer, which we love and support. So we're trying to actively work to get those schedules out as soon as possible. So families are aware of their time slots and things like that. So if you have any questions about the program itself, about your child's services and supports, reach out to myself or Ms. LePan or their special education liaison. And then stay tuned for the information on Deer Hill, because there'll be a little bit of a change. We're a little ahead here, but I wanted to highlight an opportunity that's occurring for CPAC on April 9th.
We're going to see back
Yeah,
with
come on up.
Representatives love to join us for this. Yes.
So this year I worked closely with, Stephanie and Sarah as we tried to really build out deliberate opportunities for CPAC and to use that time wisely. So we're ahead of the game, but I want to do a little PR push here. So Mass Abilities is a state organization that provides services to individuals with disabilities, both older and then school aged. Really ages 14 through 21 is what we're looking at here. And so a representative from this organization will be on site. The meeting will be held in the community room downstairs. It'll be both virtual and in person. And so Mass Abilities provides pre-transition services to students. And so this is directly from one of their brochures. We've partnered with them in some really cool ways for some of our students in our partial inclusion program at the high school and the Ames program. In the past, when a referral is made by the school districts to this organization, the organization and the representative will be made aware of the student's disability, their IEP, their disability related needs, and then really helps them with job exploration, workplace readiness training, different work experiences, self-advocacy skills, and then counseling on training, whether it's identifying different opportunities or even getting volunteer opportunities. We have a student right now who's working with the fire department as an interest, which is pretty cool. In the past, we've also had students work at the Situate Animal Shelter, and there's a financial component too as you kind of move through the different phases of working with this organization. And so I really wanted to highlight this if families, for this age or even for younger students have questions. It's a great way and a great state organization. And I'm thrilled that they're coming in person too. I'm sure they'll have a lot to share. And so we look forward to seeing people there if they're able to attend. But again, I have more information if anyone has any questions or would like a referral made on behalf of their students. So the first time I've had in my tenure here an outside organization come in. So hopefully we can build this out for the future too. And then again, just typical the meeting schedule here. There is an offsite meeting coming up, I believe, in March.
We're working on it.
Okay. But then it's confirmed for April 9th in the community use room, and this information is available on my website. And also, you can reach out to Sarah and Stephanie to provide any more. So a relatively brief update tonight, but I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Thank you, Mr. Stapleton. Ms. Saunders, do you have anything you would like to report on behalf of CPAC?
I would also like to say it'd be really helpful if, we send out our CPAC meetings to whoever joins our listserv, Facebook, but this I feel like is such a big presentation. If there's other PR mechanisms amongst the school that could send it out, that'd be really great. We'd love to get everybody. I think programs like this can make people who may be struggling or feeling worried about their child's future feel a whole lot better to see some of the amazing resources we have out there. I have to talk a little bit about the budget as it relates to CPAC. I was really, really relieved to see that FTE in the middle school was put back in place. I think what struck me is that in addition to the larger class size and how that would impact every student, but especially students with disabilities, was a really hard thing to wrap, I think, many of our heads around. So I like you've all said, it's a long road, but I just wanted to thank you for those specific items on behalf of CPAC and the probably 20% children in our district that have a disability. So one other thing I just wanted to point out, and again, not trying to be negative here, I can't say enough thanks for the work that's gone into it, but the elementary specialist. When you're a child with a disability, sometimes that teacher is the teacher that gets you. I've seen it with my own kids. My daughter can feel lost in a classroom because of not get, the ELA curriculum and other things, but that gym teacher, PE teacher, excuse me, I'm talking like we did in the 80s, that art teacher, those are the ones that my daughter says, that's my favorite class. I know what I'm doing there. I'm confident there. So I know those are still up for debate, and I know it's not actual full FTEs, it's pieces for some of these educators, but I just want to kind of put a plea out there that how important those are, and that even taking some of the hours away from educators is, I think, really reducing morale and putting us at risk of losing those excellent teachers. Okay, that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Saunders.
Sure.
I appreciate those perspectives. And we'll do questions for Mr. Stapleton. Mr. Dial, do you have any questions for Mr. Stapleton?
Questions for Mr. Stapleton. I did want to respond to Miss Saunders' comment. And I wanted to give a note of appreciation for her stalwart support of the schools during our budget crisis. And I wanted to also just entreat her to continue her support as we move forward. Every one of these cuts, whether it's a half a person who continues to stay but with reduced hours, or a full position, is painful to our district. We are where we want to be going, and the support of the community to help us get there as we move forward and move forward towards a more structural financial solution will be helpful. So I thank you, Ms. Saunders, for your support up till now, and I hope we can count on it as we try and solve this on a more permanent basis. So thank you. And then again, Mr. Stapleton, I think you're doing a fantastic job. Your presentations are clear. Our program is moving in the right direction. I'm super excited with the development. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you, Mr. Dial. Mr. Evans?
Dr. Shannon mentioned something in her presentation about, building your program as a way to keep students in district.
Yep.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So, and I was obviously a part of those conversations as we were navigating the past few weeks. And I've talked about this at length with CPAC too, and kind of my vision for building out programming within the Cohasset Public Schools. And this started back when I was a special ed teacher and hired to build out the partial inclusion program at the middle school.
Yeah.
There are a number of different program structures within a public school, and as we think about the level of programming in more restrictive settings, that I think we're definitely able to build out and provide support to students so that they can receive their services here in their community.
Okay.
So we do have partial inclusion programming to meet students with more complex and cognitive needs. We've really built out language-based programming and specialized reading, which is still an area of growth and for improvement. And then really a third area that I think is reasonable for a public school and that we have an obligation to build out is therapeutic programming. And so that program I've launched at the middle school with actually Ms. LePan, the ESY coordinator, is really looking at a criteria of students with emotional disabilities. And so my vision is to build out these programmings consistently, starting at the elementary levels as we move up to the high school. And they look different at each building level. But in theory, that would prevent us from sending students out of district for a higher level of need if we have comprehensive programs that are able to provide them their services here. And so that's why, selfishly that position, and I'm very thankful for the update this week, has been reinstated because it allows us the opportunity to have the personnel to be creative, to support students' needs within that model.
Do you get a sense of families, and Ms. Saunders is here as well, but like the sense of families about being in district, staying in district? Is that what's the sense of that?
Yeah. I think it depends on the family. I think it depends on the student need. I think the earlier that we as a district are made aware of like out of district placements and maybe like dissatisfaction with the Cohasset Public Schools, I think happens for a number of reasons. I think it starts with like mistrust that we're not able to provide a level of need. Again, I think this varies individually.
Yeah.
But like I think the earlier that we can communicate that we do have supports in place for identifying kids in a timely manner, they are making progress. We're seeing it from an IEP perspective and then also like a statewide, district-wide perspective. I think a lot of families, value like the closeness, tightness of this community. So it's variable.
Okay.
I think again, as long as we're able to provide some upfront communication with what we have, and then some trust in knowing that we do provide highly effective services for students, I think that allows that trust to build, and then that yes, they would hopefully want to stay here in district.
So building in district and encouraging families to stay in district is like a 1A goal for your office and for CPAC.
Yeah, I would say overall, any parent I talked to, like nobody said going into living in Cohasset, they wanted to go out of district.
Okay. Oh.
Sometimes it's absolutely necessary for the level of need, and Michael knows this really well. I think there are a number of situations I could see, especially with the like inclusion programs, the partial inclusion programs, where there are probably kids that without that program, their needs may not be met. So I think we have some programs right now that are vital, and if they continue to grow, it could it could expand tremendously, especially with the population increasing. So it's really child dependent, but like as we've seen, unfortunately, like until the state regulates it better and regulates the transportation better, like it's really
Yeah.
yeah. We're all having those conversations, but But yeah, I think ultimately, even people with, when we've talked about this too, even people with kids out of district, they'd still like their kid to be part of the community.
Okay.
So there's also opportunities there that we've talked about for building programming after school or whatever that might look like. I know we have a child who's going to Rise one day a week right now. Like there's opportunities like that to keep kids around, and like it takes a lot of input and upfront resources that I think we could really build something really nice and have the ability to actually in a small community do that.
And part of my background and a number of members of the department have worked in outer district placements as well. So like we're bringing us like a fresh set of eyes here. I mean, I've been here for a little bit now, but like we have that, we know what else is out there. Yeah, we know what programming is out there. I'm in constant like communication with the Social Educational Collaborative, right? They have therapeutic programming. So I think we have a lot of great resources here. And so it's like, how can we build within our own district, within our own buildings for our own students? And then there's also opportunities, potential like for tuitioning students into specialized programs as well. Like we're not there yet by any means, but I think that's my vision for the future too, is that we can build out, more programming for students.
Yeah, and I think like the other like kind of piece like that would apply to be potentially is like there's students where their disability is really like reading focused, for example. So getting like that child being in a larger classroom, or like stuff like that will have has a direct negative impact on that student. And potentially there are more and more private schools opening special dyslexia services that would attract families that are just going, oh my gosh, my child can't read. So like that's another thing to just keep aware of. Like I know we lose a lot of children to private school in this area, but I think like enough of us move here because we want our kids in the public school, like building that inclusiveness for them is key.
All right, thanks for spending time. In fact, that's all. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Mr. Sweattigo?
Don't have any questions, but thank you, Mr. Steve.
Mr. McClellan?
Just one question, Ms. Saunders. What's the active membership of CPAC right now?
It's really challenging. We have a lot of active like group chats and emails and kind of a base we know about, but getting people to the meetings is really challenging. And Michael last year put out a survey of better times. We didn't get a lot of input. It's really challenging. Other districts hold meetings at nights, but for us, as we've all seen, it's very hard for our parents to get here at night because they're going to like 7,000 activities with their kids. So I think we've also talked about like the need to specifically target younger families and families coming into the district so that they feel like they know the resources and don't get overwhelmed. Any ideas around that? We're like, please help. But actual showing up to our meetings right now is I'm told it's better than it was a few years ago, but it's not what I would hope.
Well, I mean, I don't even mean like the active attendance. I mean, that's all dependent on schedules and that's people aren't interested or committed to the conversation you're having. That's more. I was more talking about like the group conversations you're having. But I'm just thinking about you just hit on what I was getting at. It's sort of early like identification of interested families early on, right? Like so incoming Osgood good families or early Osgood good families, how we could better identify needs there. It's just there's just such like excellent collaboration going on right now between CPAC and our student services department that I just want to make sure we're optimizing that. So I'll like we can have the conversation offline, and you can collaborate with everyone in ways you think like the committee or the district should be supportive of building awareness about CPAC. Just let us know. I was just curious, but that's really the only question I had. Other than that, I'll just take every opportunity I have. Pretty much every time you give a report, Mr. Stapleton, just in case you don't hear it enough, how much of an incredible asset you are to the district and how special the team that you built is. And it's wonderful to hear your reports and see what you're doing, what you're trying to build here, and that that you collaborate so well with our special education advisory council. Thank you for everything you're doing. You're an enormous asset. And Ms. Saunders, thank you and CPAC to you and CPAC as a whole for everything you do for our most vulnerable learners. And I would just state that, when I thank people, you might have a student at home that is really struggling. You're thinking, well, maybe I don't agree that they're doing a great job. If you feel that way, please reach out to Mr. Stapleton. Please reach out to CPAC because they are two very interested parties and they will do everything they can to support you and get your student the help that they need.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Kinsler. And thank you, Ms. Saunders. I will say, as someone who was used to be able to join in on the CTAC meetings, the middle of the day, 11 a.m. is really tricky for working parents. So evening functions actually are preferable, maybe even Zooming, which doesn't have the nice cozy feeling of getting together, but
We haven't figured out
or sort of
a hybrid. So we're always like
We
5 minutes.
struggled for
like
the
that, but we
first
get
like 3 minutes of
Get
it, and we've done it multiple times. We're gonna get there.
hybrid from work
Yeah.
is kind of a tricky to do, but I appreciate how you're looking into that and cannot say enough about the wonderful things that CPAC does for the community of parents with vulnerable learners. Thank you, Mr. Stapleton. So appreciate you and the way in which extended school year options are being presented now with some concrete dates around when you will hear what it will look like and where it will be held. I think that is a massively huge improvement. And I am extraordinarily grateful. I know you were doing that next year. You did that last year as well, but huge. I mean, it
Just wait
allows
for the
for-
drop off map that I've been making for Deer Hill. That was my favorite project
Yes.
of
the
lately.
golf cart. is
Yeah.
the question.
Yeah.
And likewise, having opportunities like the AIM, is it Ames?
Yep.
Yeah, the Ames program,
Yep.
available, capturing some of our students as they transition to thinking about being outside of our district and potentially outside of their homes and giving them the skills that they need and the support that parents and kids that age need is also a great idea. And I'm glad that you're thinking about that care over time. And I think when you're thinking about growing out our programs, if we're thinking about how do we identify and care for our students from pre-K all the way through 12th grade, that's how we keep families in the district, is that identification and consistency of high level care. So thank you for that vision and you have my full support. All right. Thank you, thank you. Let's move on to community relations and communication with any reports from school committee, subcommittees, and liaisons. If we have them, please share it with.
Lance already previewed the budget, you know, the
Yes.
budget committee, we're meeting and Ms. Owen and Dr. Shannon. And as Dr. Shannon mentioned, we're in a kind of a fast moving moment. So we'll continue to meet communication subcommittee but for the first time as well. And we talk a lot about how we can make information more digestible, right? We know there's a lot of stuff going around and we want to be able to keep people feeling like they're informed without kind of overwhelming them with stuff. So
Thank you, Mr. Evans. That was beautifully concise. We do not have any topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair, but we do have the approval of some minutes. I captured just one change, that the minutes from our joint meeting with the select board, Mr. Squatrito was actually present at that meeting, but it's not listed. Is that correct?
I came a few minutes late,
Yeah,
so I
you were a
didn't
few
know
minutes late, but you
Yes.
were there.
if I should show up at the top or not.
Yes, but you were there.
I think I may have added in the text the minutes that he arrived.
Okay, thank you. He's just not listed in the attendance on the front on the
Yeah.
cover page. Whether or not
We
that
can-
matters, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we can add him there.
Okay. So in that case, we can actually do the bulk of the minutes together, because unless there are other comments, or suggestions for changes, but we can do 12-3, 12-17, 2-4, and the joint meeting all together with, only separating out, January 7th because Mr. McClellan was not in attendance for that.
And I
Motion
think
to
there was one I think there was one I was not there.
you were not January 21st?
That sounds right.
Yeah. But I don't think Jen mentioned that one. Yes.
Maybe because it wasn't in my packet.
Right there.
All right, so we have two that we'll do separately. So
Right.
I would, excuse me,
Do roll back and do it again.
are we good? All right, let's roll back to any other comments and then we'll, I'll give dates. All right, no comments. Then we will be looking for a motion to approve the minutes from February 10th, 2026 of the joint meeting of the select board and the school committee. the February 4th, 2026 regular meeting of the school, Cohasset School Committee, the regular meeting on December 17th, 2025, and the regular meeting of the Cohasset School Committee on December 3rd, 2025.
So moved with the correction for Mr. Squattrino to be listed at the top for the joint meeting.
Yes, thank you.
Second.
Right, Mr. Dial, roll call vote, sorry, Mr. Dial.
Aye.
Mr. Evans. Mr. Squattrino.
Aye.
Mr. McClellan.
Aye.
Jen Leskey. Those are all approved. And then we will separate out. Sorry, that because that one's. All right, we'll do January 21st. We'll look for a motion to approve the regular Cohasset School Committee meeting minutes as presented.
So moved.
Thank you. Looking for a second.
Second.
Mr. Dial, this is your extension.
I abstain.
Thank you. Mr. Evans.
Aye.
Mr. Squattrino. Mr. McClellan.
Aye.
Jen Leskey, aye. And then finally, the minutes from the January 7th meeting, 2026, to approve as presented.
So move.
Need a second?
Second. Oh, I can't second.
I get second.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McClellan. You will abstain. Mr. Dial,
Aye.
Mr. Evans.
Aye.
Mr. Squattrino.
Aye.
Mr. McClellan.
Session.
Jen Leskey, aye. So are also approved. Okay. We have no reason to move into executive session this evening, so I will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. A second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Dial,
Aye.
Mr. Evans,
Aye.
Mr. Squattrino,
Aye.
Mr. McClellan,
Aye.
Jen Leskey. Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.